In this video, we're going to address the question, why is practice important for the process of spiritual awakening? In the previous video, I addressed the question, is practice important during the process of awakening? And I went into some detail about why practice is important, especially early on. Then I described various points throughout the process that define a certain shift in our perceptual experience to where we start to recognize what it is that cannot be practiced, that comes forth, that comes forward, that comes up through the cracks in our life, in our experience, in our perception of what it is to be alive. So in this video, I'm going to address the question of why. The reason I decided to make this video is somebody had asked that question on a comment, and I thought that was actually a really good question. I didn't address it in the previous video, so why not address it in a new video and point to some important aspects of this process along the way. So when the question why arises in the realm of awakening, in the conversations I have with people who are on this path, who are on the pathless path, who have had various aspects of realization or perceptual shifts, I'm often inclined to say something along these lines. The why questions can lead to cognitive entanglements. They can lead to conceptual answers rather than perceptual shifts. So I often discourage people from asking too many why questions, especially of themselves, when they are using inquiry, because they tend to engage the thought process. So it's best in general when using inquiry to use questions like who, what, or even where or when. Like, who am I? What is this? What is the nature of presence? What am I experiencing right now? Now, any of these questions, if you ask and you look with persistence and a vigilance into what you're experiencing perceptually after asking a question like that, can be a very powerful practice. When you ask a question like why, often the mind gets revved up. It starts to give you answers, and those answers are not experiential answers as much as they are thought answers. They're explanations, judgments, evaluations. So generally speaking, I kind of discourage people from asking why questions when it comes to awakening. My goal for them, if there is a goal, is to have them reflect inward and see what's real beyond any concept, what's so real, so true, so undeniable that it doesn't matter what your mind is saying. It doesn't matter what the thoughts are saying. They feel like ghosts or clouds in the background, because what's real is so blatantly obvious. It's so alive, it's so all-encompassing that all concepts fall flat to the floor. Like embers, like feathers in the wind, they dissipate, and you're left in an experience of presence, of immediacy. So I wanted to point that out, that the asking of a why question can lead to a sort of conceptual trap. Now, with that said, I think in the relative sense, there is a good reason why practice is important in this process. Ultimately, it comes down to momentum. The ego, the egoic movement, the sense of me, the sense of self apart, the tendency to avoid emotion especially, to repress emotion, to hide, to overlook unconscious places, is a very, very profound momentum. It's been going on a long time. It's reinforced among humans. It's reinforced in relational consciousness. So the tendency we have to hide from ourselves, hide from truth, to avoid, to repress emotion is very strong. And it takes some practice to start to reverse that process so that the natural truth can reveal itself. The undeniable, undivided truth of this moment can reveal itself pristinely and with clarity in an undeniable way. A very simple way of saying this is that our tendency to fixate our attention into consciousness is so pervasive, it's so habituated, so almost automatic, that we don't realize it's happening most of the time we're awake. Our attention will occasionally flicker into the senses and then back into consciousness, into the mental model-making process of our internal world. It'll touch on the sense world and then come back in and turn that experience into my experience, turn it into a seeking experience. But the vast majority of time that we're awake, our attention is in the thought world once we're adults. So a simple way of describing this is that practice is teaching ourselves first how to relax the polarity inside consciousness in thought, and then to train ourselves to redirect our attention out of the thought gate into the 5 sense gates. With skillful means, this results in the experience of non-duality, of experiencing the world without boundaries, experiencing the boundless truth of this momentary reality. In that, there is no external world, there's no internal world, there's no upside, downside, left side, right side, there's no further or closer, there's no seeking, there's nothing to seek. There's just boundless, intimate experience.